We're on air and live.
We'll at least get audio.
Yeah, it's one of these things like you had to be here, right? I think we got a couple more minutes before we kick off.
Got 1 minute.
Case studies presentation, which hopefully you assumed as much from the initial slide. To learn about why. This one, other hand.
I work for various.gov. What I can.
Thank you.
Supporting our clients.
Great.
Oh yeah, I work for a shop. We actually we wrote a native Drupal CRM, and we often compare and contrast to recommend that.
Who do you work for? seen you at other camps or
Yeah.
somewhere along the way. You were familiar. All right. Implementers, power users, technical crowd. Great. So here's what's on our menu today. We're going to go down just some reasons why we want or need a CRM systems. What are some of the key features, components? I've got some use towards the end. I'm going to introduce some traces of what we've seen either from our own implementations or I'll even delve into CRM. Google is obviously a very large now. CiviCRM. So if you get involved there, whether it's channel or showing up to CiviCRM, for the sharing, we'll be talking about a lot of the different use. C stands for constituents, customer, client, contact. All right, you're all right. Can be any of that, and it really is taking place, interacting with each other, sharing things, and PayPal.authorized.net. And my question in here becomes, so where does your client, constituent, customer data live? Yes, that's the answer, yes. So, and furthermore, even if you say, okay, I'm okay having the data in 5 different places, address on file when you sign up for Google Groups. If somebody doesn't come to your events, doesn't write you checks, but is a subject matter expert in your online community, is that engagement? How do you bring it all together? less than a distribution, but really it's been around for 10 years now. Started off in 2004. So for those of you that have taken a look at it or seen it elsewhere before, it's definitely quite a bit. There's a lot of new functionality. So if you haven't seen it in just a year or 18 months, I'd strongly very quickly and see what's on offer. So what's the appeal of CiviCRM? Before I even go into more specifics, is like why, Salesforce, again, good thing until you have to pay for the 11th license. But the other thing is when you think of Salesforce, Salesforce is, and it's a great tool. The problem is design, because as with your community, when you're selling, generally you start out as a kind of a lead, and then you move into a prospect, and you kind of move through the sales funnel until you're a client, right? And it's a very linear, down, left to right, whichever way you want to draw it up, right? But it's a very linear process. You start over here for a certain phase, your community and your constituents. What you'll find out is you have the person or the constituent in the middle. And then they might be a donor, they might be an event participant, they might be a newsletter subscriber, they might be a member of your organization, that you might have some kind of case. It's much more of a hub. You install it. And run with it. It's internationalized, obviously web-based, and it's very well. When you're creating on your Drupal side are going to have the CiviCRM side, but not every CID will necessarily have a UI, right? Because you might have 30,000 in accounts. And run. So presented here that I'm not covering up here. or could I for? Distribution out. I don't know if I want to use it at a university with 40,000 students necessarily, not because of the scale, but just because of the complexity of what they're trying to do. And nodding, so you know what I'm talking about. So, but anything in the kind of the trade industry, professional associations, advocacy groups, very well used, very well used. So some of these places you might have heard of, Amnesty International, one in the technology. That doesn't know about your nonprofit, whatever you want to use. You know, locally we implemented it. It's one of the locations in the download an app, right? Well, a lot of these membership organizations are still like, well, go to our website, click on this link, download the PDF. Of course, it's not even a fillable PDF, so you have to print it out and like actually write the stuff in with a pen or pencil. And then, you know, you're supposed to fold it and write a check, imagine that, and put it in an envelope and put a stamp on it and mail it to us. So you can imagine what the attrition rate is there. So when you have something like this, we had one organization that came into us and they were very kind of struggling with the budget and everything else. Districts within Texas, and each district charges their own fees on top of it. right? And, oh, by the way, the districts happen to be delineated by the different counties, which there's 254 of those in Texas, right? So what we did is we loaded up, and each county became a contact record, and then we created each of the 16 districts as a contact record, and we made an association. We said, this district or this county is part of this particular district. We created that relationship between those two entities, and then we created a but two other items here. All right, so when you're considering CRM systems, and I'm not saying CiviCRM is the absolute best out there, it might be best for your particular use. But one thing I always encourage prospective clients, prospective users to look at is, everybody will tell you, it doesn't matter if you sign up for Facebook or LinkedIn or anything like that, one of the first things they'll tell you, would you like to input your address book, right? Everybody's very eager to get your data into their system. Before you actually entrust somebody with all your data, I always ask people and say, well, what does it look like to get your data out of that system? Because everybody wants to get your data in, but not everybody's so eager to get it out of there. From a proprietary system that shall remain nameless for now. And the system contained, I don't know, 250 different tables, and they said, yeah, we can only on a CD, so there was no take this weekend and we'll just do a custom, mass migration or anything like physical, like we'll burn it for you on a CD, and it's $35 a table. And you're going to, not even a CSV, it's really a flat text file that you're going to have to figure out how to parse yourselves. Oh, and if you want a test set of data and then real data, you're starting to run through the calculations now, right? And again, importing can be a project of its own, importing data, especially because everybody says, oh no, our data's clean. Don't worry. You get to see a clean data set. But the big thing is, can you get your data out? CiviCRM, again, it's a MySQL database, but more importantly, it's got export functionality already built in. If you want to push it out to a CSV, if you want to push it out to whatever you want, you can do that. You can construct your own data templates, if you will, and push it all out. So if I say I want to push this out in this particular, in these kind of columns, in this kind of order, you can do that for yourself. You're not dependent on somebody charging you $35 a table or something ridiculous like that to get that out of your own system. And one of the things we're seeing, and there's only a few, everybody kind of was crazy about the cloud, and cloud craze is still out there. But more and more, we're seeing people asking some serious questions and say, well, where is our data? Who owns our data? What happens when that goes poof, right? And that's why more and more people are starting to look at systems like CiviCRM, because they say, no, we'd like to keep our own data. Especially in the last year since all the NSA stuff and everything else came out. In Drupal, you also appreciate the integration with CCK, with entities, with views. I mean, those are all very familiar. You should be very familiar with those modules. Web form. We've even done implementations where basically we're not even using the CiviCRM front end. We're just using it as a backend storage database and the logic, and everything is happening on the front end, on the Drupal side. So we're in the Drupal theming mode. We're doing either a Mega or Adaptive or Bootstrap theme or something like that, and we don't have to worry about the presentation layer on the CiviCRM side per se. We're doing everything via Drupal.
Are any of the fields Drupal entities?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. There is some movements towards more entitification of CiviCRM. But it's a good word. Yeah, no, we love it too, because, for example, that's what made, for example, there is a new release of web form CiviCRM module, and up until recently, you could do event registrations and you can do those kind of things, but not charge fees. Now you can actually have a web form CiviCRM integration and charge the fees. But the fees are low. They're on CiviCRM. That's where the entities start hooking up. So your contribution. Can still be a little bit resource intensive. And CiviCRM as well, so you can use that depending on. I'm sorry. And cars, yeah. I know UberCard was obviously very popular in Drupal 6. 7 has kind of seems to go more. The next set of good features is you've got. Do some of that. It was Wikimedia Foundation. They're doing. I mean, you can imagine they don't require really any piece of data to take in a donation. So how do you dedupe those records, right? And they've written some really nice kind of batch functionalities where still you need the human interaction. That you need to apply that elbow grease. You get that up. Have a set of volunteers and say, okay, you're assigned 100 records, you're assigned 100 records of potential duplicate records, and you actually can see them side by side and start deduping it. And earlier this year when we were at CiviCon, they were going to contribute that back into the community and back into the project. So I think there's some really good opportunities coming up in terms of further dedupe
Question about the
functionality.
search. Is there a way to limit the search based on the user without having them to fill out filters? Because most of our users are 50 plus, so
Yeah.
that's a big issue we ran into with Salesforce, that you can limit it to just your chapter or your region, but you actually had to select the filter.
So the way I would probably do it that way is go kind of a combination of search setup, maybe like a little the ACLs, the access control. That's the way I would probably do it, depending on your specific. But there are precedents, like the International Mountain Biking Association actually has a big multi-site install, and each one of those chapters, so it's all in one database, but each one of those chapters only searches for their own content. We're dealing with some other organizations that have, there's now and Texas State have access to this, what happens? To flesh out that functionality, there is no right answer to it.
That's the thing that we've actually decided to open it up. We just created custom searches. You can search just your own, just in a chapter, or you can search all.
Yeah. And then there are some, especially if you get into kind of the political sphere, there are some places where it's like, well, the national can't really, kind of cross-pollinate with the states, or the states can only share so much. So there's some very interesting voter laws out there still that have not been brought into 21st century. So, a couple of features that I'll mention here, tracking. So you know exactly when the emails were sent out, whether that person, you can track your opens. Anytime anything is touched, it's like kind of like, think of it like your Drupal recent log filter. You have this on every contact. Who changed, what changed. You can turn on actually change log where you can see what changed, who changed it, when they changed it, which has come in handy before. You mentioned that. We've had the CID with the wrong field, and as they were importing, they were overriding everybody's name because they 6,000 contacts later, they call us up and say, I log in, my login works, but now I'm not Peter Petrick, now I'm, John Doe. This person not least mapping. Again, mapping can be as simple or as extensive as you'd like it to be. So when you want to map out your members, do some kind of, within a certain range. And then again, if you're identifying it and crossing over to Drupal, you can do just about anything else you want. But your geocoding with Yahoo, Google is already built into it. So you can geocode and batch geocode as well. So if you're just using the, I don't know, is Google still at 2,500 a day? Anybody know? Geocoding. So if you're, 12 days to do that, or you don't want to have to go 12 days and you can do it on. It'll go on. Put these components up here just so you know what they are, and I can run through them specifically. But I also want to make sure that I'm taking your questions because I want to make sure I answer your questions primarily. So you can take in contributions, and really contributions is, think of it as accounts receivable. So anytime you pay for something or money's coming in, that's what CiviContribute is all about. Civi member is your membership tracking, multiple levels, multiple fees, multiple information, including then we frequently do this where the different membership levels get different access on the Drupal side, right? So once you log in, oh, you're this kind of member, then you have access to all of this, or member-only forums, right, if you've ever set those up. Very nice integration there. Civi event registrations continues to just grow and grow and grow in terms of what you can do with it. So everything from limiting registrations, early birds, price sets, multiple ones, wait lists, registering multiple people, etc. I go there. And Civi Mail, one of the things you were asking about. Again, think of constant contact, eye contact, any one of these bulk email providers, all integrated into this. Do not try to send bulk email from your shared web post. It's just friendly disclaimer. Or even it's from your own VPS. Different layer of CVS, of handling as outgoing mail in terms of server setup, but the functionality to set it up and do it is there. I'll pause here. Let's see. Thinking. So I'm not sure if that's. All right. You define your own categories and rules. So you can say, here's so many membership levels. It's on a rolling basis. Current membership rules to when they're in grace period. You can also hook it up to your email distribution to where you say, okay, I want to send out an email a month in advance before the expiration and say, hey, when Pradeep's membership is about to expire, I want to email him a month before with this particular message, 2 weeks before he expires with this message, and then the day before he expires with, the really, really urgent, you're about to lose all these benefits. At the teacher association that was setting this up, and they're like, well, sometimes the teachers, especially around the summertime, they're not as active online. So even though they expire, we don't want to mark them as expired. We just want to put them in a grace period. So even after they expire for the next 30 days, they can still access their account. You can play with that and customize that as you wish.
It's all configurable.
Yeah, this is all basically, there is like a, you can configure it any way you want.
Just one more question. Group membership.
Yeah.
One team and several
employees or members or something like that, and you can define those back to the relationships that I was talking about earlier. So you say, okay, if Peter is an employee of Square, Square gets the membership, and then you can define for that particular membership type how many you actually get. So you might have 100 contacts, but I only want to give 10 licenses.
using one contact from Square.
Right. So again. I think you have to look and the functionality of what's already there. Would I love to see all of this be native to Drupal? Absolutely. But that's not the case. And so far, we evaluate the native CRM structures fairly frequently, and it just, you can't dismiss 10 years worth of development. So, but I'll let you, again, this is.
Yeah, I don't want to steal any of your time there, but I wrote a lot of that, and I kind of helped design with my team. And our basic take on it, we have a ton of respect for Civi and everything that they have done and are doing. And we look at it as a lot as a product versus a platform. So Red Hat will never have feature parity with Civi. It's not our goal. The goal is to have kind of a very lean set of building blocks, using a custom application with it. We often do the product versus the platform. If Civi is a good fit, like that's out of the box, perfect. If you want to build something, highly customized, you can consider.
That conversation that you're having with the client, the whole conversation around their digital presence and their whole digital ecosystem.
Okay.
Any insights into how to sell Drupal in that context?
In the context of the online presence?
Trying to sell CRM to your client and position that with it. Position Drupal.
Systems as well, but frankly, the options and the parity of functionalities is just Drupal's much. And Joomla to Drupal migrations because their CiviCRM was lagging behind. We're like, hey, you can rebuild this, or you can try to customize this. They're like, no, we want to go. And we're like, CiviCRM is really the underlying CMS limitation that you have to consider. A couple, 3 years ago, we were hearing not a ton, but much more stuff about Joomla. Today, frankly, everybody that comes to us is WordPress and Joomla. Joomla has become fairly irrelevant in our experience. And a lot of people come to us and say, we need a CRM, what do you recommend? And of course, we're biased to Drupal because we're a pure Drupal shop. I know other shops that do CiviCRM and do WordPress implementations, etc. But the way I put it is, if you know what you want, and it does pretty much all of what you want, and CiviCRM and WordPress does it for you, and go for it. But in 6 or 9 months, you might want something else, and you might want to rearrange the blocks, and it won't let you do that necessarily. Whereas in Drupal, it's going to take a little bit more to set up the foundation. Whichever that's how I position it, because that's been our experience. Every time we run into somebody that said, we've got CiviCRM, but we're not on Drupal, do things, and we're like, it's not a CiviCRM issue. It's an underlying content. Was that, I'm sorry, does that answer that?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you find is the best way to bring data into Civi? You do a table by table, or feedline, or?
I would say, if you want, we can have a bot for just one-on-one conversation, or I can sit over lunch. One of our areas of expertise has been data import, because when you're dealing with thousands or tens of thousands, whereas we have even hundreds of thousands of records, and depending on where it's coming from, it is not an easy process. And I'm not just talking cleaning up the data, I'm talking matching it up and bringing it in. So I have a whole presentation for 90 minutes I can talk about importing large data sets. As a matter of fact, I did one of those. There was a panel discussion at CiviCon in April, and there's going to be a recording of it. So if you want to give me your information, I'll email you with that. But you can do it via SQL queries. You can do it via the interface that's already available. You can do it via command line. You can do it via something like Kettle. So there's just different approaches depending on what you're dealing with and what you're trying the end result to be. But the good news is there's options. Because I know a lot of other systems, they're like, nope, this is the way you have to reformat all your data. This is how you're going to get it in, and that's it. Whereas here, at least you've got options. I'm sorry? Yeah, and hopefully if this thing starts actually moving around. So let's try this. Oh. Yeah. I saw another hand over here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm curious. So I have a lot of sites on Google for like non-profits or clubs. And if they don't have a huge budget, but a lot of times if they get more members, they want to start doing more management of that stuff. How easy is it for sort of non-super technical people to start managing them?
You know, it's a system,
Yeah.
and it's got a lot of moving pieces and a lot of configurable options, but at the same time, you can turn off a lot of it too. So, you know, and there is, you know, this is a good point to bring up. There's a lot of forum support out there. There is extensive documentation. A lot of companies that offer services and training. A lot of videos out there, and there is a very good ebook and or like on the website like administrator manual, if you will.
If you were training someone to start using it, would it be like a half day, a day?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, this is probably a good time to bring up the whole community aspect of it. You know, there's CiviCons, there's the user summit that's coming up in September, and organizers at CiviCons, and they're doing user training just before that kicks off right here in DC. There's a lot of times trainings, online webinars, CiviCRM and IRC, and I would encourage you to look up local meetups. Wherever you're from, look up a local meetup, or go on CiviCRM.org. So that wraps it up. I'll be around. I'll hang outside. If you guys want to have a pause or have other specific questions, my cards are here. We'll be glad to connect with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And would you care to comment on the user base adoption?
You have a card too?
Yeah. On
Oh, cheers, it's good.
Somewhere.
I think I've seen you around somewhere as well.
Sugar and Salesforce.
Thank you.
The Salesforce gives you 10 free licenses
Yes.
I'll send you a reminder.
for the nonprofit and people.
So what's your question?
We are a Salesforce partner,
Okay.
but we are a Drupal partner too.
Okay.
So I'm agnostic, and I want to put some people